I welcome everyone to this session on writing research proposals for the funding. In this session, what we will cover is we will take a look about the details on understanding the grants. Then we will understand and identify the importance of writing the grant proposals, and we will take a look at various types of funding agencies or grant providers where we can write the proposals. The expectations and information from the grantors is very important. They are very important. So we will take a look at one by one. We will understand different types of grants, what we can write for, and we'll take a look at the structure of any grant proposal. We'll go through the grant submission process also. And finally, we'll take a look at the award, implementation, and evaluation. We'll also look into the rejections and what has to be done if our proposal for funding is rejected. The definition for grant proposal is a grant is nothing but an external funding provided to support the research endeavors within a particular focused area or thrust areas. So now the funding agencies or funding sources, what they do is they have certain set of thirst areas or problems or open issues which they want us to address, and generally we write the project proposals or grant proposals understanding those thirst areas and designing our problem statement in line with them, and then we try to provide the future solutions through these grant proposals. The origination of idea, the idea should come by addressing the identified problems by the grantee, and generally the thirst areas are defined by the grantors, and grantees, they understand those thirst areas and provide the solutions or ideas to overcome those problems, providing the novel solutions or creative solutions. Generally the execution would be done by the principal investigator or co-principal investigator. Once the grant is awarded, they have to execute the entire research, develop the solutions, and provide the final solutions to the agencies. And generally the appreciations of the grant in research career is extremely important because grants play a very important role in framing the research career trajectory. They do not only provide the financial support, but they help us conducting meaningful research, and also it provides external recognition, which is also an important endorsement for a researcher's capability. The successful execution is very important because the problems are already been generalized, and then we have to provide the solutions to them, and we have to execute in such a way so that we address those open issues, challenges, and provide the novel solutions to them in such so that there would be an advancement of the knowledge, and it will also open the future research opportunities and collaborations. If we identify, there are major baskets. First one is the government funded grants, which could be the state government or could be the central government, or it could be different countries, governments who are funding them. Some of them are international projects which are running under the collaboration across multiple countries or multiple universities which are located across different countries. There would be the next type of grants which are called industry grants or private grants. Generally, it can come through corporate social responsibility, CSR. They also fund the research. There could be some sort of internal grants which are called seed grants. For an example, a new employee joins. Generally, the university or research organization facilitate a seed grant for them to grow. Some of the well-known funding agencies are such as CERB, DST, AICT, DBT, UGC, CSIR, METI, ISRO, DRDO. Many of them PSUs, NBHM, private industries, and corporate social responsibility based grants from different industries. Now, in order to identify the grants or get the news about the grants, we have to keep checking the grantors website for the latest announcements. We have to continue reading the grant bulletins to update ourselves so that we can understand or know what are the new grants coming in for funding, and then we can prepare our proposals, align our ideas, design the problem statements, and apply for the funding. It could come through the R&D cell of your institute also, R&D cell of our institute also, where generally they compile all the new grants which are coming in and then let us know that these are the possible opportunities for funding, please apply. And that could come through the friendly network also. Sometimes we'll come to know about the grants from our friends. Sometimes could be through the social network, right? So we have to keep updating ourselves, and we have to be knowing that which grants are open for funding. Then we can identify that, and then our research should be aligned with the thirst areas given by the funding agency. Ensure that our research aligns seamlessly with the mission or funding agency, and identify the research problems. They align with the current requirements or current thirst areas mentioned by the grantors or funding agencies. Otherwise, they will not accept our proposals if they are not in line. There are various types of grants, such as called research grants, equipment-based grants also, where we can buy the equipments, training grants, such as, let's say, faculty development programs or skill development programs, curriculum development programs also sometimes possible, where funding agencies are requesting us to design some sort of curriculums. There could be some fellowship-based grants also, like postdoc fellowships or maybe other fellowships. There could be internship-based grants also, where we can take the interns from that funding. Right? So those were the different types of grants. Before we start writing the funding proposals, we have to thoroughly review the instructions given by the funding agency. We have to ensure that we strictly adhere to the instructions provided by the funding agency. Firstly, familiarize ourselves with the request for proposal given by the funding agency in the document of grant proposal guide. We have to consider the common viewpoint of a reviewer. Generally, let's say if you are failing to adhere those restrictions or instructions given by the agency, which means if you are not able to follow the instructions, which means how would we be able to execute the research? So we have to understand all the instructions before framing the proposal, that how to frame the project proposal. Our project proposal should be at the excellent quality. Then and only then it will demonstrate our capability to execute the research. Following the guidelines is imperative, right? Following the guidelines is imperative, strictly. We have to follow, and each and every section or each and every guideline given by the funding agency. Respond comprehensively to all the sections. Adhere to specified formats restrictions also. Okay. Address the topics in order to present the guidelines. Address the topics in order to present in the guidelines. And we have to, sometimes the proposal should be framed with the subsections, sections, headings, subheadings as instructed by the funding agency. We cannot randomly select the sections, headings, or subsections headings. We have to be precise and provide as per the given structure which is mandated by the funding agency. Secondly, the endorsement letters are very important. We cannot randomly pick any text in the endorsement letter. The format is fixed. This should go on the university's letterhead, signed by the head of the university or head of the institute, whichever is applicable. along with the PI's undertaking. Generally, this PI's undertaking takes care of the plagiarism score. Also, it takes care of the multi-posting, that this proposal is only applied to this agency for a funding. It is not uploaded to the multiple funding agencies, and so on. So we have to follow the guidelines very clearly. After reading the guidelines is to understand the requirements. We have to design a checklist, plan and organize very well, gather the necessary information, seek if you want some clarifications, and review and revise all the instructions, consult with relevant parties, or you can talk to a program coordinator also. You can write them an email, call them, that is okay, and design your project proposal and submit in time. Generally, you start out with a smaller contribution, but then progressively you build a bigger grant proposal. You can start with, let's say, institutional grants. Generally, when we step in an institute, they provide some sort of new investors grant programs. So, such as, let's say, startup research grant, where we enter, they provide some sort of, let's say, few amounts, or maybe whatever the lump sum amount to set up the research lab. So we can get started with that. That gives us a confidence and good research, good writing proposals experience. To frame a grant proposal, first and foremost thing is we have to have a novel idea. Align the investigation scope with institutional resources and time constraints. And we have to transform our idea into the fundable proposal. We have to transform our idea into the fundable proposal. Identify a specific problem or need which is related to the concept which is needed, or which is related to the thirst area, and emphasize our novelty, what we are providing, right? The solution which we are providing, emphasize the novelty, maintain the reasonable probability of success. We have to frame the grant proposal which is realistic and can be accomplished in next 2 to 3 years or 5 years, whatever the proposal's duration is. Let's get started with the familiarization of yourself with your field. So to do this, to get novel ideas, we have to be informed about the development in our field. So we have to keep reading, updating the knowledge on the relevant research and advancements in our field. Therefore, engage in scholarly literature and publications. You read them, understand them, discuss them, attend the conferences, seminars, lectures. That will help you to build the network. Also, it will help you to build the knowledge background. And be aware of the emerging trends and technologies. Which will foster a deep understanding of key concepts. And theories in your discipline. Regularly refine your expertise in the subject matter. Continuously read that subject matter, refine your expertise, learn new things, and follow the trend. And also find out key research issues, which will further help you to write the novel ideas for grants. And how will you address the key research issues? By providing some sort of novel solutions. If you are ready with that, we will always be writing some sort of grant proposals out of those novel ideas. Before we start writing even, we have to look at the due date, the page limit. There would be some sort of word limits also. Budget limit. Sometimes some of the grants are constrained with a particular budget. We have to stay within that. There would be some sort of formatting restrictions on abstract or subsections or references and other things. There would be some sort of restrictions on PI and co-PI eligibility also, so that we have to take a look. Then we have to take a look at the submission method. What kind of files are they expecting? The font size is also a tricky thing. We have to exactly follow the font size, which has been mentioned by the granting agencies. Table contents, research objectives, expected outcomes, we have to provide them nicely. We can use tables, figures, and if there are any conflicts of interest, that have to be notified. For further, some of the areas where humans or animals are subjects, we have to take the clearance regarding them also. If we have doubts, always reach out the program coordinator, discuss, ask them. You can email them or call them before even commencing the project proposals, so that it will save your time. Contact with the program coordinator for a clarification. Now, once this is done, start writing the proposals. Generally, the proposals are accepted or appreciated if they have a focused approach. So always define your scope and keep the narrative focused on the problem statement or research statement. The major thirst areas, around that only propose specific methodologies and solutions to address those problem statements mentioned in the thirst areas, or whatever you have proposed to address the thirst area. We can use tables, charts, figures effectively to convey our idea to the granting agencies, and avoid too much of avoid overfitting into one proposal. Okay, when writing, maintain the expected quality standard, size, and complexity. The proposal should not look dull or primitive. It should be at a next level of quality standard. And enhance the English and use of advanced vocabulary. Now, these days it is easy because we can use multiple tools and we can overcome this problem. Structure of the grant proposal. If you take a look at the structure of the grant proposal, generally it starts with a cover page, then table of contents, project title, abstract or project summary, problem statement, keywords, goals and objectives, expected outcomes, work plan and methodology, time schedule for bar activities, evaluation and dissemination, that is also important, references which have to be cited, budget detail with justification. Each and every budget head will discuss that. Curriculum vitae of the investigators. What are the facilities available with the institutes, and endorsement letters that we have to, and endorsement letters along with the undertaking. Okay, if there are multiple co-PIs, we have to submit the endorsement letters from multiple co-PI too. So that was the overall structure of the grants. That was the overall structure of the grant. Let's begin with the project title. Develop a title of your grant proposal concisely, and it must reflect your entire idea. It should be concise and impactful. We should not write a 3 lines paragraph in the title. Okay, we should not write 3 lines paragraph in the title. We can do that in abstract and introduction, or maybe somewhere later part of the methodologies. It should be precise, and the length would be generally 6 to 12 words. And it is often used to assign the reviewers also, because let's say it goes to the funding agency and it has to decide the reviewers. Based on the title, it will decide the reviewers who should be reviewing this proposal, right? That's why it is very important. If I go to the next section, which is abstract, which is often called a project summary also, it should include a clear rationale for the research which we are proposing, how it is matching with the existing thirst areas which are mentioned by the granting agencies. And the problem statement forms the basis of the project goals, objective, methods, and evaluation. We have to craft our abstract to be self-sufficient, as it might be the only section. Please note, it could be the only section. Sometimes reviewers read to accept or reject. If they do not like abstract and idea pitching, they may not go further for reading the proposal. So we have to ensure that our proposal is impactful, and concisely we have to communicate our idea which is fitting with that thirst area. The objective that we must be clear, the objectives that we have to clearly outline our objectives. We can use some sort of hypothesis or models and clearly present the hypothesis or model which are going to be tested in the abstract, right? So our idea and some sort of pinnacle points of the objectives, what we wanted to do, along with some sort of brief idea of the methodology which we are going to employ to accomplish that research, that should be included in the abstract. Provide the experimental plan also with detail. Provide the experimental plan also with detail, and provide the significance estimate. Provide an estimate that what would be the significance of your research contributions to the field, right? And sometimes we have the page limit or character limit, like let's say 1 page for the abstract or 3000 characters. So we have to stay within that limit. And when we write, always avoid using the first person, correct? And it should provide a comprehensive coverage on our idea in the concise manner. In key question, the first major question is identify the knowledge gap. What is the existing knowledge gap? What is the existing knowledge gap? And where you can contribute through your research. Conduct the literature review around that problem statement. Conduct the literature review around that problem statement and provide the project's future contribution to the future studies. Provide the project's future contribution to the future studies. Assessing the previous efforts also, right? So we have to clearly mention that this problem was addressed by previous researchers. However, there were few limitations which couldn't be addressed. So in that way, you can say our proposal will be eliminating those limitations, and this is how we can provide the novelty to the existing fields. Now, as I said, the keywords are very important as they provide the concise overview of the proposed work. As they provide the concise overview of the proposed work. They play a crucial role in identifying the potential reviewers for the grant proposal. And generally, choose 5 to 6 keywords which are attractive. Please do not provide 10 or 20 keywords. Generally, 3, 5 keywords are like kind of acceptable number, and number of characters in each keyword should be less than 30. It should be crisp and concise. It should be crisp and concise. Next major section is goals and objectives. Next major section is goals and objectives. Now, our goals must be clear. The goal must be clear. Generally, it should frame a logical flow from statement, right? Logical flow from statement of need. That means whatever is the requirement, whatever is the need, our goal should be aligned with that and ensure that both the goal and objectives, they logically stem from the statement of need. Okay, statement of need. The purpose of the goal is to encapsulate the ultimate intent of the project proposal, what we are writing. The major goal of our work which we are proposing, that should be addressed here, and it should be purposeful. For an example, let's say if I wanted to write a goal of my project, I can write the goal of this project is to develop so and so item, or you can say the goal of this project is to develop the further technology, right? So and so, based on the particular field, we can articulate our goal. The characteristics of the well-planned project, if you look at this, they will have comprised goal. Generally, there would be only one goal or maximum 2 goals, which will encompass 3 to 5 objectives which are directly tied with these goals, right? 3 to 5 objectives associated with one goal or 2 goals for the proposal. Now, further, to accomplish those objectives, we can frame numerous methodological steps. To accomplish those objectives, we can frame numerous methodological steps or approaches, or let's say experimental studies, whatever we wanted to pitch in, that has to be included. Let's go to objectives. Objectives clearly articulate the core of the proposed work. In objectives, let's articulate the core of the proposed work, outline what will be accomplished. We have to be clear that what would be accomplished at the end of the project, duration. They must be measurable. Measurable. Overreaching goals, generally measurable outcomes should be there. For an example, let's say the objective should be able to measure. So let's say one project, if I conduct, let's say this faculty development program, if I take as a project, then measurement should be in this way, that at the end of the program, we will try to train 100 faculties or 100 researchers. At the end of the program, we will try to train the 100 people for the skill development, right? So that's that kind of measurement should be there. For technological development, for an example, we can say, I wanted to develop a test bed for so and so technology. That would be the outcome. End results should be discussed. End results should be discussed. And organize the objectives in a prioritized sequence. Organize the objectives in the prioritized sequence, which means the highest impactful objective should be given first, and then subsequently the other objectives should be listed. Other objectives should be listed. Specificity of the objectives, they must be highly specific. They must be highly specific, right? They must be highly specific, and limit the objectives to number 5. So the maximum, put 5 objectives. They must be clear and focused. They must be clear and focused. Evaluate the evaluation criteria at monitoring stage also, right? So you have to monitor these during the project, whether the objectives are achieved or not, when progressing in between. And all the objectives, they must have a direct link with the methodology, what we are proposing. They must have a direct link with the methodology, what we are proposing. So objectives should seamlessly lead to the development of the project's methodology, and highlight the expected outcomes, including the products, services, or facilities resulting from the project activities. Okay. So now, once that is done, we will move into writing of the technical details of the proposal. So the origin of the proposal, that would be like a central idea. How are we getting motivated to write this project proposal? So we have to elaborate on the rationale behind undertaking this particular work or proposal what we are writing. Okay, so review of research and development status, which includes generally maximum number 2 to 3 page, gives me the current state of the research and development. And then we will move towards the importance of the project which is proposed. So we have to emphasize the significance of the project which is proposed. Generally, it would be max of 1 page. And we have to highlight the novelty. This is the must thing. We have to spotlight the new area or gap that project aims to address. Showcasing its novelty. Okay. And if it is a location specific project, we have to provide the proper justification for the selected location also. Then we begin with the work plan and methodology, which generally begins with the literature survey first. So we have to provide a comprehensive literature survey, and then we have to provide the comprehensive and clear plans that how objectives will be approached. In-depth explanations with clear plans for addressing the objectives, that is essential. Accompanying that with proposed methodologies, schemes, or algorithms, provide them with tables, figures, equations if you have any, whichever is the field, and include different methodologies, schemes, algorithms to address those objectives which is aligned with that particular central goal. Such as, let's say, if I am developing a system model to address a particular technology, I have to say the detail of the design and development of that particular system model in very much detail. I have to provide if there are any mathematical models, if I'm going to attempt that, I can design a little bit of idea I can give, and then I can provide the justification for my research plan which I am proposing. Maximum. This entire content would be covered within 5 to 6 pages. Maximum. This should be like within 5 pages. Optimal length is around 5 pages. If you look at some of the common issues in methodological section is, it is poorly written, or sometimes it's a futuristic idea, so we miss it completely. We do not provide a pertinent methodology. How we will attempt for the objectives. Which will lead towards the rejection directly. So importance of the sound methodology is very, very much crucial. My methodology should be crucial, and many project rejections will directly come from unsound methodologies. So this section must be detailed and extensive. This section must be detailed and extensive. Be specific and task oriented. In this section, be specific and task oriented. Demonstrate a logical flow. Demonstrate a logical flow with each step logically progressing from the previous one. And focus on the novelty part. Focus on the novelty part. If the methodology is innovative, then there are more, the chances of selection is higher. The chances of selection is higher. We have to clearly specify the chosen research design with a justification of the selection, right? If there are any variable descriptions and relationships, include thorough description, thorough descriptions of variables and articulate their relationships also, right? Define all the important terms. If there are any data sources, provide a comprehensive description of all the data sources, detailing the subjects, selection of that particular subject with a criteria, what are the pools, what is the pool size and sample size that we have to provide, and provide or articulate all the procedures very well. Provide or articulate all the procedures very well. Include the pilot measurements also. If you are proposing a pilot of a particular technology or your idea, then include that detail also, and prepare a step-by-step outline of a work plan, and subsequently design the entire work plan step by step. Some of the questions for methodology you can ask is, how will the activities be conducted, when they will be conducted, how long will it take, who is going to conduct, where is it going to be conducted, and what facilities are needed, right? Walk readers through the project proposal. Walk readers through your project proposal. Describe the activities as they relate to the objectives. See, all the activities of methodology should be linked with the objectives which are mentioned, and they should be linked with the goal of the major project proposal, which is the central theme here. Develop a timeline or organizational chart. Okay, develop the timeline. How will you accomplish all the activities such as this? Let's say if you look at this time schedule, it will say the recruiting the research staff, subsequently acquire the assets or procure the equipments or test bed or experimental setup, or design the experimental setup, buy the relevant equipments for that, then execute the research, then at the end dissemination, which means publications, patents. How will you do that? Workshops, design all, discuss all of them and map them in terms of months. Let's say the first activity will take first 3 months. Then the second activity will take another 3 months. So on. You map all the activities in the bar chart showing the timeline. The next one is the budget detail. Budget detail includes the manpower, such as, let's say, the project staff which we will hire. Sometimes we can take PhD students in the funding of the projects. This is something different which I would share. Many of the institutes, they have the restrictions of number of PhDs per faculty, which are institutionally funded. However, if you write the grant proposals and get the external funding, from that you can hire the PhD students or postgraduate students who will perform the research along with you. You can put the budget head of buying the equipment, workstations, softwares, materials, etc. And you can put the consumable budget head also. You can include the travel, contingency, you can include the publication page charges or some other things. You can include the institutional overhead too. These are the major budget heads of the project proposal, which can be customized based on the funding agency. Sometimes there would be a cap on the overhead. Let's say it could be 10% or 20% or 15%. So we have to stay within that and structure our budget accordingly. We have to evaluate the resources nicely with the comprehensive resource consideration, align those with the project's need, and tailor the budget as per the requirement of the funding agency. So such as sometimes there could be a maximum cap that this is the maximum amount that they will fund. So we have to stay below this. We have to stay below this. We have to show them the efficient resource utilization. We have to show them the efficient resource utilization, and we have to come up with the potential contingency plans too. And we have to provide a holistic resource evaluation, that whatever we are asking, right, provide a comprehensive examination of the adequacy of the resources, for the successful execution of the project. Now the next thing comes is the dissemination. Next thing is the dissemination. Let's say the outcomes are accomplished, then you have to disseminate the outcomes, which can be done through reporting the project's outcomes to the public via multiple platforms, such as, let's say, conferences or workshops, or we can communicate the papers to the journals, publishers, or we can go for the patents and so on, right? So on. These are very important to let other people know the outcomes of them, and then outcomes of the project proposal, and then they can pursue the further research also. It is also important for the funding agency that they get the credit during the dissemination. So we have to acknowledge their funding grants in terms of the number through our dissemination entities. Okay, we can report the results to multiple platforms, specify which scientific results will be reported to ensure the clarity. Sometimes if they are copyrighted, then we have to be selective, and we have to provide them we have to take the permission from them if we are disclosing some of the sensitive information. We have to take the permission from the funding agency. So please keep that. Decide your target audience, who is going to be the target audience. Decide the dissemination methodology, whether I'm going to publish across conferences, books, chapters, journals, monographs, or across the workshops, or where, right? So different publication outlets would be decided according to that. And we have to ensure that audience is engaged during the dissemination through effective strategies to increase the impact of our work, what we have done, to increase the reach of our work, what we have done, and the impact of that to them. Next one is important. The other information what we have to provide is environmental impact assessment and risk analysis. If the project is subjected to that, we have to take the approval for that. Later, we have to provide the curriculum vitae of the investigators also, which includes all the details of the investigators. We have to provide the investigators' expertise and how they are capable of executing that particular project. We have to provide them the professional achievements. That's always better, because that will give us the background. We have to provide the professional achievements in terms of our previous publications, patents, or if there are any other contributions, such as, let's say, we have executed so and so projects, we can provide accordingly. The roles and responsibilities are solely of the investigator. He is solely responsible for executing the project. Sometimes we have been asked to provide the list of projects which we have applied for, or we have executed in the past. For an example, detail of the projects which are completed during past 5 years. So whatever the projects I have executed, it should go here. Details of the projects submitted to various funding agencies which I have submitted, which are under review, and details of the projects under implementation, which I am implementing right now. These details I have to provide in the funding proposal. Later, it will ask us also to provide the infrastructural capabilities. Such as, let's say, workshop capability, water or electricity capability, laboratory space or furniture we have or not at the institute, right? Transportation capability, telecom software-based capabilities, all these things, the infrastructure available with the university or institute should be listed here. Equipments available with our institute and research group should be listed here, so that we can say that these are the existing equipments which we have to support the future research, and we need extra funding which the funding agency can give us. So this will also give them the confidence that we can do that. Explore the portal. This is very important. Sometimes we write the proposal, but we do not explore the online portal where the funding proposal has to be uploaded, right? So you go through and be aware of all the fields that, such as, let's say here the project detail has to be uploaded, budget details has to be placed here, correct? If there are any research collaborators, when we upload, we'll come to know that it is asking for the collaborators. So think about that in ahead of the time and then upload the documents. There would be separate tabs for budget such as manpower, consumables. There would be some separate tabs such as manpower, consumable, travel, equipment, contingency, other cost, overhead, and so on. Right? So explore that well. Next important part is the endorsement letter. This has to be exactly in the same format as instructed by the funding agency, and it should be on the institutional letterhead along with the official seal and stamp. If we do not follow this exactly, it will directly result in the rejection in the preliminary stage itself. If there are multi-institutional project, this certificate is needed from multiple institutes also, as well as if there are multiple co-PIs. So let's say if there is one investigator and one more co-PI, for both of them separately this has to be signed and taken. Separately. Apart from that, PI's undertaking is also required, such as, let's say, this project will not be or is not submitted simultaneously to multiple funding agencies. This is an undertaking given by the principal investigator and co-principal investigator. We cannot take funding from the multiple agencies, so non-existing concurrent funding has to be signed, right? So this should be solely funded by so and so agency. If there are any biosafety or ethical clearances, they have to be taken, right? So these are the major thing. And one more undertaking they will ask for is the plagiarism score, or here also you can discuss about the AI score, and they should be generally, this score should be generally less than 10%. You can say 20%, depends on what is the requirement mentioned by that particular funding agency. Generally, why the individuals they refrain from pursuing the grant is, first thing is lack of time. Sometimes we don't have time, so we don't go for writing the funding proposal. Sometimes resources are limited, so this will also result in lack of time and lack of expertise, right? So we don't write the project proposal. Sometimes the application process is complex. And we do not have enough experience to attempt for the funding grants, okay, for writing the project proposals. That's why also sometimes we don't write it. Sometimes we get afraid of the competition and we don't write. That is also one major issue. Perhaps the fear of uncertainty, that we are not sure whether we'll spend that much of time and then we get the funding or not. But believe me, if we don't spend time, we never get the funding. Lack of expertise, let's say if we are just starting our career and we do not have enough expertise, in that case, we will again face the issue, right? Sometimes eligibility criteria is also important. We have to be qualified to write the funding proposals and apply to a particular so-and-so agency. So we have to look at the eligibility criteria also. Often it could be misaligned with the goals, right? So that will also create an issue. Sometimes we are too much into the administrative burdens and we will not find to attempt or to write the granting proposals. That could be one more reason also, right? Generally, 1 out of 10 proposals get success. So fear of rejection shouldn't be there, because by default the selection ratio is lower. The only thing is we have to keep trying, right? And we learn from our rejections, and rejected proposals, they provide valuable insights and constructive feedback. They provide very valuable insights and constructive feedback. They'll increase the success rate for future submission. And generally, we submit for third or fourth time, the success rate is higher. Now, how to overcome this trouble of lack of time? So writing is generally an Olympic event, right? So treat writing is a disciplined practice, and always keep writing every day and do it consistently. Such as, let's say, every day we can say 2 hours I wanted to write something, correct? So 2 hours, either I can write the grant proposals or research papers or something daily, kind of a focused writing time period. And importance of a daily commitment is, like, we get consistent progress, and at the end of the duration we get we get our proposal ready, right? We get our proposal ready. The grant process is never wasted, even if it is rejected. Even if it is rejected, it'll give us an experience. It'll give us an experience, right? So it is imperative to secure a grant. We must actively engage in writing the proposals. It is nothing but it will serve as a catalyst of our professional development, because when we have the funding, we can hire more number of students or project staffs or research staffs. We can extend the research facilities, labs, and then we can progress quickly. We have to have a focused thought process. It demands the concentration, and it will help us to sharpen our focus, sharpen our focus, and it will strengthen the proposal writing. It will strengthen the proposal writing, and the feedback is very important. Feedback is very important. If it is rejected, we get the feedback from the reviewers and we can improve on them. And general attributes for successful grants is they are extremely clear. Their goals are clear. Their purpose is clear. Their methodologies are clear. Their objectives are clear. So they are extremely clear. They are extremely aligned with the objectives. Their methodologies, entire proposal is extremely aligned with the objectives, and all the objectives are aligned with the central goal which is given by the funding agency, right? And generally they would be realistic, that they should be accomplishable, they should be achievable, and they should be innovative, right? Innovation should be there. Our idea should be innovative, and impact should be long lasting. There should be a significant impact. The potential impact and significance of the project should be long lasting. We should have a well structured and compelling narrative which engages the audience or reviewers who are going to read our proposal, right? And it should be concise. It should be concise and crisp, avoiding the unnecessary details. Avoiding the unnecessary details. And it should be thorough. We have to demonstrate a thorough understanding of the existing research and about the contribution what we are going to make through this proposal. Realistic budget should be there. It shouldn't be like very expensive budget, right? Otherwise it will be rejected. Or it shouldn't be like very primitive. It should be somewhere at an acceptable range, and it should be a reviewer centric approach. Anticipate and address the potential concerns and questions which can come in future by the reviewers, right? We have to look into the future and then address the reviewers questions and comments accordingly. We should be consistent. We should be consistent in formatting languages. We should be consistent in formatting language and tone throughout the entire proposal. It strictly adhere to the guidelines provided by the funding agency, and generally across all the fundings, they will ask us to highlight the collaborators. They will ask us to highlight the collaborators. Will there be any collaboration? Will there be any partnerships with the industries or other universities? So it's better to develop this kind of healthy practice. All the objectives, they must be measurable. Objectives shouldn't be kind of immeasurable. They should be having a measurable outcome, right? And if there are any ethical consideration, we have to address all the ethical issues, and we have to demonstrate a commitment to the ethical research practice, right? We have to demonstrate a commitment towards different ethical research practices, and we should be adaptable by incorporating the feedback and adjusting our proposal based on the need, by incorporating the feedback coming from the reviewers, right? And the project must be sustainable. So incorporate the elements that will showcase that project's potential for sustainability beyond the grant period. Even if the grant is over, it should be sustainable. And pay meticulous attention to the detail, including grammars, formatting, accuracy, right? All the technical details, everything. They pay extreme attention to these details. And we have to frame our communication strategically, highlighting the importance and urgency of the project's objective. We have to be ensuring that whatever the objectives we are proposing, they are extremely in need right now based on the central theme of the project proposal, and it should be addressed right now. So that urgency we have to highlight, and it should be evidence based. We have to support our assertions and claims with the evidence supporting data and relevant literature, right? Engage engage to the thorough review and revision process to enhance the quality of my proposal. Take the sources of help. Reach out to, let's say, for co-PIs for a collaboration. They will help us to rectify our ideas, and also they will help us to edit and enhance the quality, right? Enhance the quality because it's a joint effort. Right? That will always help us to improve. That will always help us to improve. Avoid the technical jargons. Avoid the technical jargons and errors. Always be clear about what we are writing, and be precise when doing the editing and proofreading, right? Which is very important, because maintain the delicate equilibrium between being concise and between being wordy, right? So do not be too much of wordy as well as do not be too much of concise. We have to address our methodologies, so that maintain that balance. Once you have completed the first draft, take a break maybe for a week or something, and then restart the work. Conduct the revisions, seek input from others, discuss with the co-PIs, send them for a revision. They will also edit, and they will also increase the clarity, conciseness and quality of the proposal. Avoid using the jargons and exclude using first person's perspective, right? Exclude using the first person. So generally you can write indirect thing, right? So exclude the first person perspective. Look for the due date. Please note the due date. Always spare some sort of backup time before the due date, because we face some sort of website downtimes, and we may face that we are not able to upload the project proposal. So in that case, we have to be ready with the contingency plan. So best way is to leave 3 or 5 days in buffer, right? Leave a 3 or 5 days in buffer. Once you have uploaded, ensure that email has been received from the funding agency, mentioning the reference ID for future tracing. Leave the buffer time always. Let's say always that could be a case of internet outage. If we are at a last minute, and then we may not be able to upload the proposal. So leave always the buffer time. How to deal with the rejections? So the common causes of the proposal failure, right? So what are the common causes that will lead us towards the rejection? Inadequate articulation of the project's goals, objectives, and methodology. Misalignment with the guidelines, right? We are failing to adhere the guidelines. Justification is weak. There is no rationale behind the proposed work. Inadequate planning, unrealistic project planning and budget, absence of innovative elements, unrealistic budget, such as, let's say, I am asking too much of grant, which will never be possible, right? So that kind of thing has to be eliminated. Poorly defined project objectives, which are unclear and immeasurable, that will also result in the rejection. Lack of research support with the evidences and relative literature. What we are asking for is not supported or accompanied by the relevant literature. We do not have efficient team or qualified team to conduct the research. That will also result in a rejection. Failure to address the common concerns and questions coming from the reviewers, right? We couldn't anticipate this could be the common questions which will come in future, or if we are revising after the feedback and putting it to the next grant or next funding agency without any addressing the previous comments of the reviewers. Ethical oversights, right? So we have to be ethical. If we do not follow those ethics, sometimes it gets rejected. Disregards to the or non-compliance with the specific instructions issued by the funding agencies. Ineffective communication. We poorly crafted narratives that will result in the rejection of the proposal. Overlooked formatting. We haven't formatted our project proposal very well. Lack of adaptivity, insufficient review. So those will lead us towards the rejection. Now let's say we got the grant. Post award, once we have the notice from the grant, it will issue the sanction order to us. Now it is PIs and co-PIs responsibility to execute the project successfully, to conduct the project successfully. So all the expenditures, they have to be approved by the competent authority, and we have to report uh, all the activities as per the deadlines, and assessing the progress of the project as it unfolds. So we have to continuously report our progress to the funding agencies, or to the funding agency or the competent authority, as and when we achieve or certain duration, let's say 6 months, every 6 months or 3 months, we have to report them our funding for our progress to the funding agency. Evaluate during the progress. It's a continuous evaluation. And we have to provide them a continuous report, and at the end we have to provide a final evaluation report also. Now let's say the funding is exhausted or the project is over. How will we proceed further? So we have to ensure that there is a lasting impact, and the project should be self-sustaining even beyond the funding. There should be other sources of funding which are coming as a result of the project, and we can generate the funding from the outcomes of the project which is executed. Furthermore, that could be the matching grant given by the institute. There can be also the extension. What we can do is, like, we can write the extended version of the primary project if that is over successfully, and we can ask for the new funding. Generate some sort of substantial income, explore the avenues of generating fees through the project itself, right? Inclusion in the budget itself, the matching grant, you put that in the budget itself, that this could be the matching grant institute can provide once the project is over. Okay. So that's all about the extension plan. Once the project is over. Now, how will you handle the rejection? Never lose the heart, because first attempt will always result in the rejection. So carefully analyze the reviewer's comments and address them, and then revise the project proposal addressing those comments. If the idea is not good, find a good idea and put it in some other projects for funding, right? Put it in some other grants, or put it with some other funding agencies, and look for anything is missing, or if we haven't considered to enhance the quality of the project proposal, look for them and then improve them. If the rejected project proposal was obsolete, think about something new and start again. Let's say if I am writing a project proposal on a very much old technology which is not needed even, then think something else which is more recent and which is more current. Okay, take advice from the other people whose project proposals were accepted. Whose project proposal was accepted. How we can do that? Success means like having 1 in 3 grant funded, right? So generally what we do is, like, we apply for 3-4 grants and we get the success out of them for very few. Let's say 1 is selected out of 3. A rejected proposal does not always mean that idea was rejected. Obtain the reviewer's comment. Call for, you can call program officer for the reviewer's comment and ask for them, and then you can learn from them, revise, and recycle your proposal to other funding agencies. The greatest mistake is not to write the proposal. We have to be always engaged in the writing process. So keep writing, always start, right? And never give up. So that's the idea. That was all about the project proposal writing.